Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Hump Day.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's Hump Day.
Woo-woo!
Ronnie, how happy are folks who save hundreds of dollars switching to Geico? I'd say happier than a camel on Wednesday.
Hump Day!
Get happy.
Yeah!
Get Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Oh, folks, gotta love Hump Day. This is the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend, sometimes with success, sometimes not. But as I like to say, the fun is all in the trying. Want to apologize to you today. Unfortunately, Mike is not going to be able to be with us today. We had to pre-record the show today because I am at a conference. I'm at the California School Boards Association conference, and well, I've got a time conflict, so I'm not going to be able to do the show live. So decided go ahead, rather than not doing the show, decided to go ahead and pre-record it for you today because we got some interesting things to talk about. But before we get into those things, wanted to take a moment to well, I just wanted to take a moment to give you all a shout out. Wanted to call and say, what's up? And make sure to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. But, you know, one of the funny things is that when you're doing things and you're configuring things and setting it up, well, you don't always stop to think about all the stuff that needs to be set up. Well, in this case, bam, there it is. It is all set up now. Let's go ahead and start with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries, rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you today. If you bought an AR in the last few years, chances are you already have one of their barrels, so why not get another one? Why not rebarrel your current rifle if you have an older rifle, or why not do a brand new build? Anyway, check them out today. You'll find them at hitmanindustries.net. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Check them out at cragop.org, cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got Hog Holsters. You'll find them at hogholsters.com, the best in concealed carry tactical holsters on the market. If you go to hogholsters.com, that's HAWG holsters.com, you can get a discount on us if you use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. Just like it is right up there, one word, you're going to get a discount on us. And then finally, if you're looking for tactical gear, outdoor gear, cold weather gear, wet weather gear, whatever you're looking for, you'll find all things tactical except the gun. Huge selection, fast shipping, competitive prices, veteran owned and operated. Check them out today, uscombatgear.com. All right, we're going to start today with, well, one of the things about this last election is that you'll notice that the left has either gone in one of two ways. They've either gone the full-blown neo-Marxist, whacked-out left and decided, you know what, this country is racist and it's sexist and it's transphobic and it's all these things that are evil, and they put the evil Donald Trump in as president, and therefore, you know, I hate America. That's their position now. Or you've got some on the left who are waking up to the reality that, you know, maybe those other guys that are on the left, maybe we've allowed them to drag the Democratic Party a little bit too far. Maybe it's time to return to at least a little bit of normalcy. Well, such has occurred there in the city of New York, as the mayor of New York, Mayor Adams, well, let's just say he's taken a distinct turn, a different turn, when it comes to his position on the what's going on there in the city of New York, and the immigration problem. Let's check out what he had to say.
Those who are here committing crimes, robberies, shooting at police officers, raping innocent people, have been a harm to our country. I want to sit down and hear the plan on how we're going to address them. Those are the people I am talking about, and I would love to sit down with the board of czar and hear his thoughts on how we're going to address those who are harming our citizens.
You're open to that?
Open to?
To hearing what their plan is to deport some of these folks, and you think the city, in some circumstances, should cooperate with ICE?
You know what's interesting? And I was talking to the team the other day. I want you to all go back and Google Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Google what they said about those who commit crimes in our city and what they said in our country. They said those who commit crimes need to get out right away. That was their position. So this is not a new position, because in the state of in the era of cancel culture, no one is afraid to be honest about the truth. Well, cancel me, because I'm going to protect the people of this city. And if you come into this country, in this city, and think you're going to harm innocent New Yorkers and innocent migrants and asylum seekers, this is not the mayor you want to be in the city under.
Yeah, so there you have it. So all of a sudden, he's decided that, you know what, we need to be cracking down on crime. If you're here illegally, now mind you, this is the person who said all are welcome. All are welcome. This is a person who was refusing. Well, no, I can't. You know what? I'll take it back. I cannot say that I can recall of a specific instance where Mayor Eric Adams said that he would refuse to work with federal immigration authorities. But I do know that when it comes to this particular issue, that he has been on the woke side of it. He has questioned whether or not, or questioned the federal government, going after them and saying, hey, we got this problem, you need to pay for it. But instead of saying, let's deport them or let's not let them in the country, he's been saying, oh, all are welcome. Well, guess what? The people of New York are tired. They recognize that they can't afford this. And worse of all, they can't afford those who, one, committed crimes where they came from, and then number two, came here to the United States and are now committing crimes here in the United States. It once again makes absolutely no sense why we would be putting up with this, why we have a Democratic Party that would be putting up with this. But I think you can clearly see that there is a divide within the Democratic Party, and some of them are attempting to return to, once again, a bit of common sense, or what I like to call uncommon sense, because common sense just isn't that common anymore. But I think it's a good sign. I think you're going to see this starting to happen with a number of different mayors. I think you're going to start to see this with a number of different Democrats. I think you're going to start to see this with various pieces of legislation. And part of this is these people are talking to their political consultants, and their political consultants are telling them, yeah, no, folks, this is bad. We cannot be supporting this stuff. It is dangerous for us, and it's causing us to lose support amongst a lot of our rank and file Democrats. If we want them to continue to support us, we need to support them. And your job as an elected official is first and foremost to protect the people who are your constituents, right? To look after them. That's not to say you have to turn a blind eye to those who are not your constituents, but your first responsibility is to those who elected you to office. That's your first responsibility. Oh no, I'm sorry. Your first responsibility is the oath you took, and that is to the Constitution of the United States. Your first obligation. But then it's to, in the mode of defending that Constitution, it's to meet the needs of your constituents. Once again, this isn't rocket science. This isn't anything new. And by the way, we Republicans have been saying that. We've been the ones playing, whether it's Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton or whether it's Barack Obama, we've been the ones who've been playing these videos over and over again, and the Democrats seem to just, nah, I'm going to ignore it. Not going to go there. Not going to do that. Not going to worry about it. I mean, literally, you've got people who are arguing that if someone is a criminal, when I say criminal, I'm not just talking, yes, if you entered the country illegally, if you violated our immigration laws, you have committed a crime which makes you a criminal because you've broken the law. But we're not talking about them. I'm talking about people who literally are robbing people, raping people, people who are shooting people, people who are stabbing people, people who are assaulting people, you name it. There are, and by the way, many of them have done it since they've been here. Many of them did it before they got here. Either way, you do not have a right to be, they do not have a right to be here in the United States. In particular, the criminal aliens do not have a right to be here in the United States, and therefore should be dutifully removed. And I appreciate the fact that there are many at the federal level who are saying, look, if you are If you are in local government and you are standing in the way or getting in the way of immigration officials doing their job, then you will pay a price. If it may be that your local municipality, whether it be state or whether it be state or local, will lose federal funding. It may be that if it's egregious enough and you're violating the law, you're breaking the law, that you wind up doing jail time or that you wind up going to jail or getting arrested. Either way, you know what? The law needs to be enforced, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out, shall we say? All right, moving right along. Our next story here. Well, talk about keeping people safe, and we're going to keep it there in the city of New York. You might remember the story of Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny was the retired Marine, because I know people say once you're never an ex-Marine. Once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. Excuse me. But there was an individual who was on a subway train, who was aggressively going after and threatening people, and he basically restrained him. Excuse me again. I'm sorry. And he decided to take matters into his own hands and restrain this individual so that he could not do harm to anyone. Well, this individual eventually would wind up dying. I don't know if it was necessarily as a result of what happened, as a result of the actions of Daniel Penny, but he would wind up dying, and Denny would then wind up being charged with a crime. Well, that trial has been taking place there in New York, and the trial has now gone to the jury. I'm pulling up the story here. There we go. Bam. Okay. So it says here, and this is being reported from the Associated Press, jury deliberations begin in veteran Daniel Denny's trial over using chokehold on Jordan Neely. You might recall, obviously from the picture here, right here being Mr. Daniel, he is white, and Mr. Neely was black. And that's the only reason, to be quite honest, I believe, why this individual is being tried. Anyway, all that having been said, by the way, it's also the only reason it's in the news, is because the hero is white, and the individual who died in this particular case was black. Anyway, it says here, jurors began deliberations and soon revisited some of their legal instructions Tuesday in the trial of a military veteran charged with using a fatal chokehold to subdue a New York subway rider whose behavior was alarming other passengers. Alarming, it was scaring other passengers. To a person, when you listen to their testimony, when you listen to their eyewitness accounts, they thought this guy was going to do harm to someone. Anyway, moving right along. The anonymous jury is weighing manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide charges in the death of Jordan Neely, a troubled street performer who was homeless. A veteran, Daniel Penny, has pled not guilty and maintains that his actions were justified. In a reflection of complexities of the closely watched case, the jury asked within the first 75 minutes of deliberations to rehear Judge Maxwell Willie's instructions on justification defenses and on the definitions of the crimes charged. After the rereading and 90 more minutes of deliberations, jurors headed home for the day without reaching a verdict. Penny, 26, has said he was protecting fellow subway riders and intended only to restrain Neely to hold him for police, not to hurt him. Prosecutors say the Marine veteran used far too much force for too long when he gripped Neely by the neck for about 6 minutes. Now, once again, I'm going to go back to this, and I'm just going to tell you, this was an individual who was threatening violence upon other people. I get that you're allowed to use when you are in danger, right? When you feel that you are in danger of bodily harm, You are allowed to use whatever force is necessary to subdue an individual, right? You are allowed to use and by the way, that includes up to and including deadly force. Whatever force is necessary in order to subdue them. Now, mind you, Daniel wasn't the only, Daniel Danny, I'm sorry, was not the only one who was involved in this. He was not the only one who was restraining him. He was just the only one with his arm around the neck. There were other individuals who were helping him restrain this individual. So clearly, he was not the only person who recognized that this individual needed to be restrained. Also, I just find it kind of funny that everybody's trying to refer to him, oh, he's a street performer, as if that makes a difference. And by the way, the only reason why they're referring to Daniel as a veteran, is because they want to say, oh, well, he was trained in the military. He was trained to kill, and that's why he killed him. That's the whole thing behind it. So anyway, that trial is in deliberations. I got to believe that within a couple of days, they're going to come back, and I believe they're going to come back with a not guilty verdict. Once again, I think sanity will start to reign once again, and I think in this particular case, this is an individual who, by all accounts, and by everyone who was there, said he was defending people, and he needs to be acquitted in this particular case. Anyway, the Supreme Court today is hearing a case on hormones, on cross-sex hormones that are being used on minors, and now you might recall nationwide, there's something like 46 states that actually have bans on what's called gender-affirming care. Now, it's not care. It is utilizing surgeries and medications, cross-sex hormones, to I call it sex trait modification, right? In other words, to make someone appear to be a sex that they are not. That's what the goal of it is. If it is in this particular case, it will make a male seem more feminine, look more like a woman, or to make a female seem more male, grow facial hair, yada, greater muscle, greater muscle tone or size, all of that. Now, and I think Mike and I have talked about this. We believe that an adult if you decide you want to do what you want to do, you get to live your life. If you want to live your life that way and you've been fully informed of the risks of what you're doing, and the long-term and the short-term, if you've been fully informed and you decide that's what you want to do, that's on you. But we're talking about children. And we're talking about children who they can't get a tattoo, they can't smoke cigarettes, they can't drink alcohol, right? There are so many different things. In public schools, they can't have an aspirin at school without their parents' permission in places like California. But yet and still, you have places like California that want to allow children as young as 11 and 12 to be able to take drugs that will have could have permanent effects. Effects like osteoporosis or cause brittle bones, that can cause sterility, that can cause sexual dysfunction. All sorts of things, or having them do surgeries that will permanently alter their bodies, like mastectomies on young girls. You just have people who believe that, look, a child should not be, and when I say child, I mean a minor, but a child should not be able to make life-altering decisions that are going to, by the way, impact them for their entire life, right? It's going to impact them for their entire life. Anyway, story out today. So the Supreme Court today is hearing a case out of Tennessee. Now, mind you, this specifically deals with, this case in particular specifically deals with the hormones, not the surgeries. But let's talk a little bit about it here. Let's read a little bit of the story here. It says, front and center at the Supreme Court on Wednesday is the battle over the rights of transgender children. At issue is a state law in Tennessee that blocks minors from accessing, quote, gender-affirming care. And I'm using the quotes because it's not gender-affirming and it is not care. It is, it's sex trait modification. Anyway, in the last 3 years, more than 24 states have enacted laws that ban puberty blockers, hormones, and other treatments for minors seeking gender-affirming care. The issue has become highly politicized, as anyone who watched the election ads this fall can attest. You might remember that probably the most impactful ad that Donald Trump used against Kamala Harris had to deal with her support of California taxpayers paying for illegal immigrant prisoners to get sex change operations. Once again, at taxpayer expense, and it was all true. They denied it. They tried to hide it, but it was all true. They tried to say it was ridiculous, but it was all true. Anyway, it says here, challenging Tennessee's law in the Supreme Court are 3 trans kids and their parents. Yeah, no, I'm not donating to NPR because I'm not donating to y'all. Y'all are too far to the left. Anyway, people make assumptions. They say it's just a phase because they don't know what it's like. LW says of her experience, it certainly can feel pretty hopeless, especially given how slow the process is. Now, I want you to understand from this is an individual who has decided, well, I don't know if they're still a trans kid, but this is a minor. Once again, a minor. I say, oh, well, you're saying it's just a phase. I'm not saying it's just a phase. I'm saying it might be. And I think people are saying it might be just a phase. And if it is just a phase, should you permanently alter your body in a way that is going to impact your future significantly for something that is just a phase? No, you should not. That's all. That is all. If you wait until you're an adult and you've decided that this is still something that you want to do, you are more than willing. You go do you. Make sure you get all of the information. But no, if you are a child, if you are someone who we have deemed to not be responsible enough to own a gun, someone not responsible enough to be able to consume alcohol or shoot. But before the age of 16, we don't let you drive a car. But we're going to let you mutilate your body. And by the way, in places like California, and this is going to have an impact, because in places like California, you can lose custody of your kids if you refuse them gender affirming care. If you say, no, I am not going to allow my boy to chop off his thing. I'm not going to allow my daughter to take hormones, which could render her sterile, right? I'm not going to allow her to get a mastectomy. And if they want to do it as an adult, they can do it as an adult. By the way, it's the same way for tattoos. It's the same way for ear piercings, right? But, anyway, I was about to probably say a joke that I probably shouldn't say. But anyway, overall, it's all a bad idea. And it needs to be stopped. And I'm believing that the Supreme Court is going to put some rationality into it. And I'm wondering how far they're going to go, because this could have, by the way, an impact on bathrooms, on the whole idea of boys and girls bathrooms or males in female sports. It could have an impact on all of that. And in general, it should have an impact on, common sense. Anyway, it's going to be real interesting to see exactly how this case goes. Looking forward to seeing what the Supreme Court comes up with. I got to say, I have every reason to have faith in the Supreme Court that they're going to make the right decision. Anyway, it's going to be, by the way, and after oral hearing, it's going to be a few months before we know the outcome. All right, moving right along, and this is actually here in my neck of the woods. Well, not necessarily my neck of the woods. In San Francisco, in the San Francisco school district, which, by the way, is a dying school district. Everyone's leaving. Not only is everyone leaving San Francisco, everyone with kids is leaving San Francisco. So you have a school district that is dying on the vine. People can't afford to live there. The people who can't afford to live there tend to be younger professionals who aren't interested in having kids in many cases. Or when they do decide they want to have kids, they move out of San Francisco. Anyway, all that having been said, the schools there are dying, right? The schools there are dying on the vine. They don't have the financial resources to keep all of their schools open. So one of the things they're doing is they're shutting down a lot of their schools. Well, there is a program in San Francisco, and one of the things they did was they hired this consultant. It was a DEI consultant, right? And they paid this consultant $30,000 to come up with a DEI plan for school closures. And interesting, this school closure plan actually targeted for closure a high-performing majority Asian school. because, well, it didn't fit the DEI model. Let's read this as a story over at the Washington Free Beacon. It says, amid severe budget crisis, the San Francisco Unified School District superintendent decided in March that some schools in the chronically dysfunctional, poor-performing public system needed to close. So it paid a Stanford University professor $30,000 to create an equity-centered formula that would determine which ones would shutter. After the results were announced in October, parents revolted. The school superintendent was forced to resign, and the closure plan was shelved indefinitely. 2 weeks later, city voters ousted their embattled mayor, London Breed. Now, as the school district tries to rebuild under new leadership, the Stanford professor's DEI-focused closure plan is coming under increasingly harsh scrutiny, especially from San Francisco's Asian community. Asian parents are enraged that the closure plan targeted a high-performing elementary school whose students are overwhelmingly low income and Asian. The now paused closure plan, parents argue, would used a custom formula that rewarded poor-performing Black and Hispanic schools and targeted low-income, high-performing Asian children for cutbacks. Now, folks, I have to tell you, in school, in public education right now, we're dealing with this concept. They're calling it equity, right? And the idea of equity was supposed to be giving students what they need, right? Identifying students, identifying what they need, and then giving them what they need. Not every student needs the same thing, right? No, not every student does need the same thing. But different students need different things. Well, often what has happened in the DEI programs is that students are seen by one thing, by one criteria, and that criteria is their race. Meaning, doesn't matter if you're low income in this particular case, because guess what? Overwhelming majority of the schools there in San Francisco are low income students. But they target specifically those who are Black, those who are brown. But if you happen to be Asian, well, nope, you're considered because of your proximity to whiteness. And by the way, the proximity to whiteness for many Asians in California, academically, how they perform, they're on the other side. They tend to be more successful than whites. So because of their proximity to whiteness, they don't get the same deferential treatment. The fact that they are low income is not taken into consideration. So let's shut down their school. But here's what's dumb about that. It's rewarding failure. Instead of saying, maybe what we should be doing is closing down these schools that are failing and sending some of these kids who are going to the failing school, send them to the one that's working. They got something figured out. Why not send them to the schools that are actually educating children? Makes sense to me, right? You got a business that ain't working, that's losing money, you shut it down, right? And you expand the business that is making money. If you got a branch over here that is making money, you expand that branch. Only makes sense. But evidently not in San Francisco. This is why I like to call it common sense or uncommon sense, because common sense, as I have said multiple times, common sense is just not that common. All right, folks, that's going to bring us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com, use discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your hog holster today. This first one here, Matt, I'm kind of frustrated that Mike isn't here today because Mike shared this one with me, and I wanted to share it with y'all. I've used it before, I've shared it before, but I thought it was a really good one because I think as we go into and we start talking about who Donald Trump is and the Donald Trump presidency, I think that it is misrepresented who he is and how he is. And I think this is an example that will show you who the real Donald Trump is. And I think one that's often maligned, but this particular Donald Trump is someone who I think that I'm hoping that people on the left will at least give him an opportunity to show himself to be.
Let me tell you one story. You'll like this one. To get an understanding of who he is. For about 10 years, I was guest faculty on the JFK Special Warfare School at Bragg. I used to get one of the last lectures before they don the beret. Then we win the election, and I go from being a professor at Quantico to being deputy to the president in the White House. And the next rotation of officers is about to come through the JFK school. And I tell the cadre, hey, why don't you bring them to the White House, and I'll do my lecture here. Once they confirmed they'd come to the White House, I called the front office, I called the Oval, and I said, this is the first group of soon-to-be Green Berets who have gone through the Q course after the election. Could we possibly have the Commander-in-Chief meet with them? Within 2 hours, they called back and said, yep, the boss will see them. Now here's the story. I do my lecture up in the beautiful, kind of neoclassic Eisenhower building. Then I took them over to the West Wing, to the Roosevelt room, and we sat them down, like 18, one gal, one MI guy, and 18 guys. And the president arrives, he's 15 minutes late, so we've got like maybe 10 minutes with him. And the first thing he does, and I'll edit it for family consumption, is he walks in and he looks around and says, who's the toughest mother in here? Who could take any one of the others, right? Immediately connecting at their level, right?
Yeah.
And then he sits down and he goes around, so where are you from? Tell me about your family. And then we're already 20 minutes late, blown through the thing. His staff are going nuts because he's got to talk to president or prime minister something. And he looks at them and he looks at me and he says, I'm not supposed to do this, but come with me. And he leads them from the Roosevelt room over to the Oval. He gets them all to stand behind the Resolute desk, says, hey, get the photographer. And the photographer comes and he looks around and says, this doesn't work. All of you over there, come here one by one. And he does private portraits at the Resolute desk with each of these officers. This isn't for the press. There's no press there. They're not going to be able to show anybody except their team and their family, right?
Yeah.
He did this for them, right? We're already 40 minutes late. This is his love of America and the guys who keep us safe. And here's the kicker. After we finished, Michael, the cadre, the instructor, as they're like standing outside, everybody's beaming. I just met the Commander-in-Chief. He comes over to me and he whispers in my ear. And he says, Seb, thank you for that, because you don't understand what you just did. For the last 8 years under Obama, we weren't even allowed in the building. That's why elections matter.
Yeah, see, a lot of you may not have heard that story, but it's a phenomenal story. And, it doesn't just tell you who Donald Trump is, but also tells you who Barack Obama was. So anyway, I found that video to be a lot of fun. This next video is hilarious. In honor of the folks over in Chicago, this unfortunately, and I was looking for gun stories, and unfortunately, the only two-way thing I could find was a parting shot. So I'll throw this one in there for you.
A group of online sleuths are trying to track down an individual who has been pelting Chicago residents with raw eggs. So good news, Chicago may finally be running out of bullets.
A Colorado.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I love that one. And then you guys know we're always dealing with technical difficulties here on the show. Unfortunately, being both behind the camera and in front of the camera, I'm the one that's usually dealing with the technical issues. But I found this one to be both disturbing and true, and by the way, hilarious.
I was talking to my cardiologist recently. There is a procedure in cardiology. You've probably heard of it. It's pretty common where they can actually stop the heart and then shock it and restart it, right? But do you know what that means? You know what that means? Even in cardiology, at some point, some of the best cardiologists in the world were all standing around scratching their heads looking at a patient. One of them said, anybody tried to turn it off and turn it back on again?
Yeah. Anyway. All right, folks, that's going to be it for today's show. But before we go, let's give one more quick shout out to our sponsors. You got Hitman Industries. Find them at hitmanindustries.net. Rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you today. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly, referred to by Ronald Reagan as the conscience of the Republican Party. Check them out today at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. Then you've got Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com, HAWGholsters.com, and get your Hog Holster today. And then finally, if you're looking for anything tactical, you can find all things tactical, except the gun, at uscombatgear.com. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. I will be back tomorrow. Hopefully, we will be back tomorrow on Throat Punch Thursday. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and if you get a chance, remember to send a few downrange. We'll holler at you manana.